Hello, everyone, and welcome again to your English class. My name is Teacher Ivan Cáceres, as you already know, and today we are going to talk about reported speech part 2, which is related to the questions, okay, or the reported speech questions. Because, of course, as you know, when we repeat what somebody else said, we can also have questions in those things, right? We can have someone asking a question, and then we need to repeat that question that they made, okay? So today we're going to focus in questions. Let's start up. So it says here we have a small definition, and it says that a reported question is when we tell someone what another person asked. To do this, we can use direct speech or indirect speech. But of course, today we're going to learn how to use the indirect speech. Okay? So in the direct speech, we have, for example, do you like working in sales? He asked. Of course, we're using the quotation marks, as you can see here. They are very small, but we are using them. Okay. Do you like working in sales with quotation marks? Because we are repeating every word that this person said, and then we are adding he asked. Okay. Why asked? Because of course, ask is what we use when we refer about questions. Okay. Then in indirect speech, we have he asked me if I liked working in sales. Okay? We can have me or we can eliminate me depending on if the question was related to you directly or if it was, for example, to a group, okay, or to somebody that is not mentioned. Okay? So he asked me, in this case, the question was directly towards me. Okay, he asked me if I liked working in sales. Of course, because the question is, do you like working in sales? And it's directed to me. It says in indirect speech, we change the question structure. For example, if we have, do you like, to a statement structure, we can change it to I like. And we have to use the if, okay? For yes and no questions, we use the if. Because remember that we can have yes and no questions, and we can have open questions. As we talked in previous encounters, yes and no questions are those that you can only answer with yes or no. They are also known as closed questions. And the open questions are those that can have multiple answers. Okay, for example, if I ask you, do you like pizza? That is a closed question because you can only tell me yes, I do or no, I don't. But if I ask you, I don't know, what is your favorite color? That is an open question because you could tell me brown, purple, violet, anything that you can think of. Okay? So that is an open question. Now here you have some examples. Of course, we're still working with yes and no questions in this case. Okay, it says, do you work from home? He said. This is in direct speech. And in indirect speech, it would be, he asked me if I worked from home. Again, we are replacing the do in the question by an if. Okay, he asked me if I worked from home. Okay, remember that we talked about if when we talked about conditionals, okay? He asked me if I worked from home. Good. And here you have another example. In this case, we don't have a closed question, but we have an open question, okay? And the question says, who did you see? This is an open question because it can have many answers, okay? It's not a yes or no question. It can have many answers. So, who did you see? She asked, okay? She asked me who I had seen. Okay, we are applying the same rule that we had for reported speech, okay, which is if you have simple past, okay, with it, then you should use over here past perfect, okay, and that's the reason why we have here past perfect. She asked me who I had seen, okay, I had seen, yes, good. Now the next one. And the next one says, could you write that down for me? She asked. Okay. In this case, we have a question that is done with a modal verb. Could you? Could you write that down for me? She asked. And in this case, we are eliminating the modal verb that is a possibility. She asked me to write it down, but in this case, it sounds more like an order, okay, like a command. If you don't want it to sound like a command, you can keep the same structure of the closed questions, which is using she asked me if I could write it down. She asked me if I could write it down. Okay? Good. Now let's go with some more information. It says, in indirect speech, we change the question structure, as I said before. For example, do you like changes into if I like. Remember that you should have if here, okay? And we also often make changes to the tenses and other words in the same way as for reported statements. For example, have done turns into had done. Today becomes that day. That is something that we have talked about before, okay? Now we have yes and no questions. For yes and no questions, as I said, okay, we use if or whether to report the question. If is more common, okay? So the most commonly used is if. We have, for example, are you going to the Helsinki conference? He asked me if I was going to the Helsinki conference. So they are changing are you, but by if I, okay? Are you, if I. Why? Because this is a no question or yes or no question. This is a closed question. I can only answer this question by using yes or no. And then you have here, have you finished the project yet? This is a question in simple present, in present perfect, but this question is also a closed question, okay? Have you finished the project yet? She asked us whether, here they are using whether instead of if, okay? Whether we had finished the project yet. You can also add at the end, you can also say or not. Whether we had finished the project yet or not. Okay, depends on you. And for other questions or open questions, okay, questions that have what, where, why, who, when, or how, we use the question word to report the question. It's the same thing as we saw in the example. For example, what time does the train leave? In the report, we're gonna say, he asked me what time the train left. Okay, what time the train left. We are changing the simple present by simple past, and we are keeping the same word. What is the same, okay? What time the train, we eliminate the auxiliary and we put this in past, okay? He asked me what time the train left. Now with question number 2, it says, where did he go? She asked where he went. She asked where he went. Okay, in this case, we didn't use the past perfect, and that is something that you can also do, but we'll talk about that later on. Okay, so where did he go? He asked where he went. You can also do it by saying she asked where he had gone. Okay, she asked where he had gone, which would be with past perfect. Okay, great. So we follow the same structures, and remember, it's very easy. For open questions, we have to use the same word that they use in the question. It doesn't matter if it's what, where, why, who, when, etc. And for closed questions, okay, which are yes or no questions, then we have to use if instead of the auxiliary or the question word that we use, which could be are, do, have, etc. Okay, pretty good. If you have any questions or if you still didn't understand, I recommend you to rewatch the video or text me, okay, to give you some further information. You can also check the virtual classroom. Now let's go with the exercises. Oh, sorry. Before that, we have to check the offers, requests, and suggestions. Anyways, we will review this more deeply in another video, okay? But in here we have it. So it says, if the question is making an offer, a request, or a suggestion, we can use a specific verb. Pattern is there. For example, we can use offer, ask or suggest. Okay, for example, would you like me to help you? He offered to help me. Can you hold this for me, please? She asked me to hold it because this is something that she's asking him to do. Why don't we check with Joel? He suggested checking with Joel. So this is something that normally we don't use a lot. Okay? Now let's check the practice time or the exercises. Okay, you can check the video again, and if you're ready, you can play it. Good. So let's check the first exercises, and for this, I also recommend you to have your notebook and to write them down. Take notes, and if you have any mistakes or any questions, we can check that up later. Okay? So the first exercise it says turn from direct speech to reported speech. The first one is, did you meet each other at school? Okay, did you meet each other at school? He asked them if you had met each other at school. Number two, why are you wearing sunglasses? She wondered why you were wearing sunglasses. Okay, who else have you told? Were you listening to me? And where will you stay? Okay, so the idea is that you build questions and you can do it as long as you try it. For the class, I'm gonna have you do or create 5 questions of your own, okay, and then do the reports. Yes, I will be checking that. So please remember, you have to do 5 questions and then you have to report these questions. You can, of course, always say who is the subject. For example, Maria, Ivan, I don't know, anyone. You can say Maria, and then you write down the question. What do you like to do? And then you do the report. Maria asked me, and the report. Okay? So I hope that you have liked the class and I hope that you have learned a lot. I will be seeing you next time. Have a nice day. Bye.